What do you make of the surprise decision, the MPC's decision to raise interest rates to 6%?
I think it was a bit surprising because most of the market expected them to hold it steady at 5.75%. But I don't think it affects the market that much because in the first place, it was not quite clear why they brought it down by 25 basis points at the beginning of the year. 6% is a good rate, is a good level. So the effect is not that significant either way. It signals that the central bank maybe in the long-term policy is looking to have a contractionary policy. But for the meantime, I think it's a pretty good level.
All right, let's talk about the market and how it fared, losing some ground again today and still closing below the 4,000 mark. What's it going to take to lift this market? I mean, the results have been very good, and now the central bank is taking action.
The market, what we've seen is, last week we saw quite a number of retail investors coming in to take positions. I mean, when the index went below the psychological level of 4,000. But now it's pretty quiet. Although today we did see some activity on some counters from foreigners, such as KPLC and Equity, and also East African breweries who are closing their books today. Going forward, it's not looking quite positive. Actually, we're expecting the index to lose a bit more before it starts to gain, maybe hit levels of about 3,600.
Let's talk about the shilling, which is now at about 84 shillings, 88 cents. I mean, there was a lot of panic last week when the shilling hit a 17-year low. The central bank always insisted that the fundamentals of the shilling were sound. Your views?
I agree with the central bank. In fact, last week, because of this, they actually carried out an audit among the banks, which are the largest traders on the FX market. Because the central bank insisted, and I do actually agree, that the sharp rise was mostly due to speculators. And with what we saw with the MPC today, bringing the level to 6%, the shilling reacted immediately and actually gained ground. And I think that was one of the main purposes why the MPC actually decided to raise the CBR.
Okay, talking about that interest rate decision and what it's likely to do to interest-bearing assets and a lot of people coming into the bond markets of Kenya.
The Kenyan market is quite interesting in that the CBR rate is mostly a psychological rate. I mean, look at January when the rate was brought down to 5.75. The market did not react at all, actually. I think it's actually a signal effect. It shows that central bank is watching the market. There's a lot of pressure on rates. It might make traders a bit more cautious in their trading, especially on fixed income instruments. But going forward, I don't expect much movement in the fixed income or equity market from the CBR rate. But we might see now an effect on the FX market.
Let's look at what's been happening on the equity side of the market. Counters to watch, in your view?
I think we should look at KPLC and Equity are counters to look. Equity, always a speculative counter, there's always interest in it. KPLC, a counter that has very strong fundamentals and a pretty good counter. Also, there's Cables, which has really come down since the books closed and they gave the bonus. So I think those are counters to watch going forward.
All right, what we've seen just by way of gainers in recent weeks, for instance, are logistics companies like Car and General, for instance, CFC and some of the others that you've mentioned as well. What makes them more interesting just by way of pushing up the share price and investors being prepared to pay a little bit more?
Some of those stocks I'd call defensive stocks. So what we're seeing is maybe investors coming into those stocks that are not very volatile, that don't, apart from equity that is, that don't move too much and have stable earnings.